Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing fine. Welcome to the session. Today we are going to discuss chapter 10 from grade 6 CBSE, and the name of the chapter is The Banyan Tree. It's by Ruskin Bond. And in this particular chapter, Ruskin Bond is trying to explain how he happens to observe a fight that took place between a mongoose and a cobra when he was quite young, and he was there at his grandparents' place sitting on the banyan tree. Now we are yet to see how the story unfolds itself, if it was the mongoose who won the fight or was it the cobra. So let's get started. Part 1. Though the house and the grounds belonged to my grandfathers or grandparents, the magnificent old banyan tree was mine, chiefly because grandfather at 65 could no longer climb it. So the author is trying to explain that he visited his grandparents, and though the area belonged to his grandparents, but there was a banyan tree very close to their house. And now he says that I am the owner of the banyan tree because his grandfather turned quite old. He was 65 and he could no longer afford to climb the tree. Its spreading branches, which hung to the ground and took root again, forming a number of twisting means turns, twisting passages, gave me endless pleasure. Among them were squirrels and snails and butterflies. The tree was older than the house, older than grandfather, as old as Dehradun itself. I could hide myself in its branches, behind the thick green leaves, and spy on the world below. Spy means look secretly or observe secretly. So he says that I feel immense pleasure. I'm very happy to see the banyan tree, which has its branches wide open. And the branches they used to hang from the banyan tree in bunches, and they used to come down to the ground. As you can see, it's there right here. In this picture also you might have observed. So it became very easy for him to climb up the banyan trees. So these roots had formed loops, so many twists and turns. And there were various animals there on the tree, starting from squirrels all the way to snails and butterflies. And the tree was very old. If we talk about the age of the tree, it was older than the age of the grandfather, or even the house where they lived. And I'll say the age could be compared to the formation or coming up of this territory, that's Dehradun. So the narrator explained that it was as old as the city Dehradun, and I could hide myself in the branches which were that thick. And sitting on the top, I could observe the world below. Secretly, I could do that. My friend first was a small grey squirrel. Arching his back and sniffing into the air, he seemed at first to resent my invasion. Invasion means, coming into the territory, attacking or getting into someone's area. So, resent here, it means dislike. There are a lot of meanings that I need to explain here. But when he found that I did not arm myself with catapult or air gun. What is a catapult? It's a stick like this, and it has an elastic attached to it. So what you do is you hold the stick back, use the elastic, and then you throw a stone with it. That's a catapult. So, or an air gun, and he became friendly, and When I started bringing him pieces of cake and biscuits, he grew quite bold and was soon taking morsels from hand. The morsels means very small bit of food. Small bit of food. Before long, he was dwelling into my pockets and helping himself to whatever he could find. He was a very young squirrel, and his friends and relatives probably thought him foolish and headstrong for trusting a human. Now, here he is trying to explain that dwelling means reach insight. Headstrong means strong-headed, which means a person who takes a decision and sticks to it, who believes in the decision, right? Very willful, you can say. So now the first encounter of the narrator was with a small squirrel, and they became good friends. So what he used to do is, the squirrel, it used to first smell it. You know, whenever you get close to any animal, it will first smell you and sense the situation. So arching his back, that means, going around, rounding around his back and sniffing into the air, smelling into the air. He smelled at first to resent my invasion. He didn't like that. Squirrel didn't really like the author's invasion, entry into his private area, into his privacy. But then he realized that the author was not armed. He wasn't carrying anything to harm the squirrel, to offend him. So soon he became very friendly. So armed basically means any sort of air gun with which you can hit the animals, or catapult, which means two wooden sticks getting tied to elastic with which you throw something. So then both of them, they became good friends, and soon the author started bringing him tiny bits of food like cakes, biscuits, and as their friendship grew and the bond became stronger, the squirrel wasn't afraid of the narrator and of, I would say, the boy, and started eating small morsels from his hand. And very soon, the squirrel became so friendly that it used to dig into the author's pocket to find something to eat. So he was quite, became very good friends with each other. Both of them, they made a good team. However, the young squirrel and his relatives, they thought that this squirrel is a fool because he's trusting a human being and you don't know when are they going to attack you. So in the spring, when the banyan tree was full of small red figs, now these are the figs right here, it's a kind of a fruit. Birds of all kinds would flock into its branches. The red-bottomed bulbul, cheerful and greedy, parrots, mena, and crows squabbling with one another. Squabbling basically means quarreling, means fighting, that I want to eat. During the fig season, the banyan tree was the noisiest place in the garden. Now, during the spring season, when we had figs, it was the time of figs to appear. The banyan tree used to be full in its bloom and have all those small red figs, which is a fruit. So different kinds of birds like bulbul, a very energetic bird, very cheerful, parrots, mena, crows, they used to fight with each other over small things and having figs there, to project their territory and to project their presence there. So it became a very noisy place in the garden in the fig season. Halfway up the tree, I had built a crude platform. Crude means like a raw, not very finished, where I would spend the afternoons when it was not too hot. I could read there, propping myself. Propping myself means leaning against, taking help of, taking rest. So propping myself up against the tree with a cushion, which means a pillow, from the living room. Treasure Island, Huckleberry Finn, and the story of Dr. Dolittle were some of the books that made my Banyan Tree library. So on the tree, the author made a small platform for himself. Generally, that used to be there, what tribal people would make. So in the afternoon, when it was not very hot, he used to spend some good time there. He used to take a cushion from the drawing room or living room and then pick up some of the books with him, carry some of the books with him, and was able to read at that place, while he was leaning against the tree. So he had set up a small tree library, and the books that he used were all of them like Treasure Island, Huckleberry Finn, and the story of Dr. Dolittle. So these were all the books that he used to read. When I did not feel like reading, I could look down through the leaves at the world below. And one particular afternoon, I had a grandstand view. Grandstand view means a clear view from the best position you can. Grandstand view of a classic of Indian wilds, a fight between a mongoose and the cobra. So now he says that once he didn't feel like reading, so he stopped, he closed his books, and from where he was sitting, he could find two wild creatures fighting with each other. One was the mongoose and the second one was the cobra. And of course, their stories quite prevalent along the Indian other stories that is being narrated in India. So let's see what happens next. Part 2. The warm breezes of approaching summer had sent everyone, including the gardener, into the house. I was feeling drowsy, sleepy myself, wondering if I should go to the pond and have a swim with Ramu and the buffaloes, when I saw a huge black cobra gliding out, which means sliding out of plump bunch of cactus. At the same time, a mongoose emerged from the bushes and went straight for the cobra. Now, breezes, they are the light winds that blow during the summer season. So here it was hot summer and everybody was inside the house because nobody wanted to feel the hot wind blowing on their skin. So even the gardener wasn't there. So now the author was feeling sleepy, bit lazy. So he was unable to decide if he should go for a swim to the pond with Ramu and buffaloes. But as he was deciding on it, he noticed a cobra, a snake, coming out of the bunch of cactus plant, and a mongoose from the other end coming from the bushes. Now the mongoose came out of the bushes and both of them just came right in front of each other, faced each other, because we'll come to know about that, because the mongoose went straight for the cobra, decided to attack the cobra. In a clearing beneath the banyan tree, in bright sunshine, they came face to face. The cobra knew only too well that the grey mongoose, 3 feet long, was a superb fighter, clever and aggressive. Aggressive means somebody who is always ready to fight, or you can say very, very forceful. But the cobra too was a skillful and experienced fighter. It could move swiftly, quickly. Swiftly means quickly. And strike with the speed of light, very quick. And the sacs behind his long, sharp fangs. What are sacs? It's a part shaped like a bag, like this part you can say. Shaped like a bag. The sacs behind the long ears, sharp fags, what are the fags? They're its long teeth, were full of deadly poison. Right here, the bundle of poison that it carries, it was to be a battle of champions. Now here, both the cobra and the mongoose came before each other under the banyan tree. And now the cobra, because you get to know about the other animal and their instincts. He was well aware about mongoose being a superb fighter, having amazing skills, very clever, very active, very aggressive. But if we talk about the cobra himself, he was also an experienced fighter, very poisonous, very deadly, with those long, sharp teeth, carrying poison. Thus, it was yet to be seen how the fight turns out. It was a battle between two champions, two fighters. Hissing defiance, resistance. Defiance means resistance. His forked tongue, as you know, the tongue of the snake is like this. In and out, the cobra raised 3 of his 6 feet off the ground. If the cobra was 6 feet, he was coiled like this and he stood up at 3 feet. Spread his hood. This is the upper part, is the hood. Spectacled hood. Spread his broad spectacled hood. The mongoose pushed his tail. The long hair on his spine stood up. Now, what happens out here is that both of them, they got ready to fight. They were almost ready to fight. At this time, the cobra, he made his hissing sound in his defense because he wanted to make the other animal aware that I am there, and started to move his tongue in and out quickly. So that was an alarm sent from the cobra's end that I am there in the battlefield. Come, get me if you can. He did spread his hood to fight and attack. If we talk about mongoose, he also showed his readiness to fight. He just brushed his tail, moved his tail, and he raised his tail like this. Spine stood up like this. He raised his tail like this, and I'm also ready. Come, let's get it. Though the combatants were unaware of my presence, combatants, you can say combatants like participants, they were unaware of my presence in the tree. They were soon made aware of the arrival of 2 other spectators, those who are there to watch. One was a mena, the other a jungle crow. They had seen these preparations for battle and had settled on the cactus to watch the outcome. Had they been content only to watch, all would have been very well with both of them. Now, both the participants, the cobra and the mongoose, they set the alarm. They were ready to fight, but they were unaware of the presence of the author, who was sitting on the banyan tree. He was hidden in the tree, in the branches, which were so dense. But apart from the narrator, there were two other beings who arrived. One was a myna and the other was a crow. So they had already witnessed everything, happening between the cobra and the mongoose. And they just settled on the cactus tree, made themselves comfortable there to watch the fight, the battle. But they were not very satisfied in watching, they were also ready to cheer up. So they rather participated in the fight. Let's see what happens next. The cobra stood on the defensive, swaying slowly from side to side. Cobra just came up like this, trying to mesmerize the mongoose into making a false move. So here he was trying to capture his attention, that I am going to come from the other end. So basically trying to, give him false signal into making a false move. But mongoose knew the power of his opponent's glassy, unwinking eyes, and refused to meet them. Defensive, you can say protective. Instead, he fixed his gaze there at one point just below the cobra's hood. If this is cobra's hood, so right here, or I can say right here, and opened the attack. Now the cobra, he was trying to spellbind the mongoose that, I'm moving this, and trying to give him false signal that I'll attack you from this end and this end. It's how we try to punch our friend and give him wrong signals. But mongoose is a very smart creature. He was well aware of the power of his opponent, his eyes, the glassy eyes that didn't really twinkle. And he refused to take any of his signals. He just focused on attacking the cobra, and he fixed his eyes at a point just below cobra's hood, right here, and started the attack. Moving forward quickly until he was just within the cobra's reach, the mongoose made a pretended move, acted to the side, as this is like the cobra. He came there, this mongoose is right there. He was almost in the reach of the snake, and all of a sudden, like you feel you've got the mosquito but it makes its way. So similarly, this mongoose moved to one side. Immediately the cobra stuck, but the mongoose was already here. His great hood came down so swiftly that I thought nothing could save the mongoose. But the little fellow jumped neatly to one side and darted in as swiftly as the cobra, biting the snake on the back here and darting away again out of the reach. Darting means moving. So now the mongoose made a false move too, that he's very close to cobra and cobra can get him. He can probably attack him. He's within his periphery. So the cobra got signal. He attacked him with, his hood, his head up. And as he moved its hood down to attack, it seems like he put in a lot of pressure. It seemed like now mongoose won't be able to save himself. That was the amount of force with which the snake tried to hit the mongoose. It was it was assumed that mongoose would not be saved. But this small little creature was very quick. He neatly, smartly, quickly, swiftly moved to one side, like here. and managed to get towards the back of the snake and bit the snake on its back and again moved out of its reach. So this is like how an insect, as you can see, the kid is also trying to hit it but ends up falling somewhere else. So this is how an insect tries to bite you. You try to hit the insect, but unfortunately you always miss it. So that case is going on. At the same moment that the cobra struck, the crow and the mena hurled. Hurled basically means when you try to throw yourself in some particular direction. Threw themselves on him only to collide heavily in mid-air. They thought that the snake might be dead. Shrieking insult. Shrieking means that high-pitched cry or sound that is made. Insults at each other, they returned to the cactus plant. A few drops of blood glistened. Glisten means to shine, sparkle on cobra's back. So the moment the cobra attacked, the crow and the mena, they threw themselves at him and rather hit each other and then started to make that loud sound of attack and then finally came back to the cactus plant. They could observe some blood on cobra's back that was shining. The cobra struck and missed. Again the mongoose sprang aside, jumped in and bit. Again the birds dived, jumped at the snake and bumped into each other instead and returned shrieking to the safety of the cactus. Now here what happens again? Now the cobra attacked, but it missed the attack. So it was mongoose turn. So the mongoose jumped, sprang means jump aside, jumped in and bit again. Now it was his turn. The cobra was just recovering. However, this mongoose, he jumped again and attacked cobra and it bit him. So what happens next? Once he did that, now again the birds, they dived at the snake, they tried to jump, tried to attack the cobra, but again collided with each other and came back to the safe haven. That's their cactus, crying, shouting at each other. The third round followed the same course as the first, but with one dramatic difference. The crow and the mena, still determined to take part in the proceedings, dived, jumped at the cobra, but this time they missed each other as well as their mark. The mena flew on and reached its perch, its final destination, and it settled down. But the crow tried to pull up in mid-air and turn back. In the second that it took the bird to do this, the cobra whipped his back. Whipped his back basically means suddenly pulled down his back and struck with great force his snout. Snout means the nose and the mouth, thudding against the crow's body. Thud is the sound or the struggle that was being made. So, as the crow tried to take a back turn, suddenly whipped his head back. I'll explain it to you in this context. So what happens is the third time again the birds tried to attack the cobra in the same manner as they were doing earlier, but this time there was a small change. And what was the change this time? They didn't collide with each other. Mena managed to flew back. She flew back to her place, that's the cactus tree, and settled there. But the crow, who tried to continue his flight in the air, to return to his safe place, his trial failed. Cobra noticed him. He suddenly attacked the crow. Can you see it here? He whipped his head back, pulled it back towards him with a lot of force, moved it back suddenly. Whipped means move it back suddenly, and struck with great force. His snout, now his nose and mouth of that animal, thuddling against, so the snake's mouth and this part with which he put in the crow in his mouth, it was making that sound to get the crow inside his body. So the crow was gone. I saw the bird flung nearly 20 feet across the garden. It fluttered about for a while, but then lay still. Mena remained on the cactus plant, and when the snake and the mongoose returned to the flight, oh my God, what happened? Returned to the flight, very wisely decided not to interfere again. The cobra was weakening, and the mongoose, while walking fearlessly up to it, raised itself on its short legs, and with the lightning snap, had the big snail by the snout. Snout is again that part of this nose and mouth. The cobra writhed and lashed out in a frightening manner. Of course, when you're being attacked by another animal, you cry. So he was with writhed basically means when you twist, when you turn your body. So this is right and lashed about the frightening manner, in a frightening manner, and even coiled itself about the mongoose, but to no avail. But to no avail means no success. The little fellow hung grimly. Grimly means very serious manner. Grimly on until the snake had ceased to struggle. He then smelt along the whirling length, gripped it round the hood, and dragged it into the bushes. Now this was the ending of what happened. Whirling means shaking. So the climax was that the author noticed that the bird was gone, and its body was shaking for some time, but then as it was dead, it became still. And the bird actually fell 20 feet away. That's the distance across the garden. The cobra just threw it off for some time. And now Mena was on the cactus plant and decided not to interfere in the fight in order to save her life. Now the cobra had become very weak and was feeling defeated, and mongoose continued with its plan. It attacked fearlessly with a lot of force, raised itself, stood up on its short legs, and with a very quick attack, it tried to attack the snake and finally killed it. So with its former part, or you can say the mouth section, it attacked and finished the snake. So the snake, the cobra, kind of, had all those twisting motions in order to escape itself from the attack, had coiled its body, but it was of no use. The attack was very fast and it was final. It caught the cobra from its hood and dragged it and pushed it into the bushes. The Mena dropped cautiously to the ground, hopped about, peered, looked into the bushes from a safe distance, and then with a shrill, which means high-pitched cry of congratulation, flew away. So the manna came near the ground, hopped there, and as she reached the bushes, she didn't exactly come very close to Mongoose and the dead snake, but in a very high-pitched sound, congratulated the victory of Mongoose and made her way into the air. Which means, with its smart technique, Mongoose managed to kill Cobra. And in their fight, another animal, another bird crow had to sacrifice his life just because of his stupidity. So that's all for the session. In case you liked it, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.